Contemporary public art in the Polish countryside. I want to show some connections between contemporary art in the Polish countryside and folk culture. This short presentation focuses on the manifestations of public art in the countryside, so it is essential to briefly introduce the context of cultural participation in rural Poland. The cultural empowerment of Polish rural communities began to take shape in the late 19th and early 20th centuries as the peasantry started to emancipate as a social class and form their first associations and societies. Supported by local and state authorities as well as private individuals, various educational initiatives laid the groundwork for the emergence of choirs, dance groups, singing ensembles, and theater troupes in rural areas. Following Poland's regaining of independence in 1918, endeavors aiming at the integration of the country previously ruled by Prussia, Austria, and Russia became increasingly prevalent. One noteworthy figure in this early educational and cultural activities, aiming at bridging the gaps and preserving local traditions, was Jędrzej Czerniak, who introduced the concept of folk theater in 1927. Many of the principles of folk theater can be found in contemporary artistic endeavors, which align with the realm of anthropological theater and are characterized by their ephemeral and irregular nature. I try to emphasize some selected trends of contemporary artistic endeavors in public arts, specifically those unfolding outside urban metropolises. I mean ethnographic, borderlands, and ecological, and I want to briefly present some examples. So let's start from ethnographic trend, which shares certain resemblances to the concept of folk theater. One distinguishing characteristic is the informal or semi-formal nature of the movement, rooted in individual affinities of interest, values, and a shared work ethos. Another significant factor that unites this trend is the concept of spiritual geography, a mentally ingrained map of places, paths, and traditions. The focus lies in the locality, particularly the history and myths associated with a place. A notable example of the ethnographic trend in non-urban public art is the Węgajty village theater, which explores the traditional rural culture. One of the traditions that the Węgajty theater has embraced from its inception is the custom of caroling in Christmas time. By traversing villages and donning fearsome masks, the artists from Węgajty find resonance with the oldest forms of popular para-theater. They carefully observe the ritual and religious rhythm that characterizes the rural culture. In the early years of the theater group, these caroling expeditions, going from house to house, possessed a loose and flexible structure while remaining rooted in the local tradition. The group of people would wander, singing and offering blessings to the hosts, who in return would extend their hospitality and provide refreshments. Even in those early days, the repertoire of folk songs incorporated a diverse range of pieces that had centuries-old traditions interwoven within them. The group of artists and activists gathered around the Kana Theater also embarks on a journey through tradition. The Around Tradition project encapsulates this heritage in a time capsule, safeguarding it from oblivion. For instance, it documents the fading pre-Christian rite known as empty nights, when the entire community would gather at a household to accompany that. This is on the night preceding the funeral. These empty nights meetings had a structured format and guides singers well versed in the repertoire and rules. The project aimed to document these unique encounters with funeral singers who were regarded as the bridge with the underworld and whose songs accompanied individuals from birth to death. In the cases of the Vengaite village theater and the Kana theater, we encounter a distinctive type of practice where artistic exploration intertwines with the matters of group identity, creative community, communal values, and the preservation of traditional memory. These phenomena are simultaneously confronted with contemporary global culture. One of the themes undertaken by public art artists is an interest in the borderland, memory of place and local identity. Venturing beyond metropolises, they explore specific places in search of their uniqueness and history, uncovering the past and traditional culture. The Kana Theatre and the collaborating artists have been exploring the village of Stolec in Western Pomerania as a borderland space. Stolec holds historical significance dating back to the Middle Ages. In Stolec, alongside Polish residents, there are still German residents, although they don't openly emphasize their origins. The Places and the Borders project primarily focuses on collecting narratives from both Polish and German residents on either side of the border. The activities center around uncovering the place's history, identifying points of connection, and constructing a unique and authentic portrayal of its identity. The work within the Stolec community commenced in 2014, and after several years of presence and diverse joint activities, a four-day local festival was collectively developed with the residents. Paweł Kula's project, Postcards, delved into the place's past. During a walk based on photographs found in the family albums, participants visited locations whose identities could be discerned. By creating new images that bridge the gap between the past and the present, the boundaries of time were transcended. An example of active engagement by the residents was also a wandering performance consisting of installations and artistic actions related to the places they indicated. Some residents opened themselves up to receive guests and shared stories about their passions, including pigeon breeding, rose cultivation, clock restoration, collecting old cameras, and more. And Weronika Fibich prepared an action called Hideout for the local festival. The main characters were the local girl Julka and her relatives, including the deceased eldest resident of the village, Mrs. Vala, a German woman who shared stories about the German past of the village. The artist analyzed various layers of memories, including those of Vala, her great-grandchildren, grandchildren, and sons. In addition to Vala's direct storytelling during the action, her tales were further developed into fairy tales by other villagers. The Borderlands Center of Arts, Cultures and Nations operates in Sejny, a town located right on the Polish-Lithuanian border in a place with multicultural traditions. Their artistic work is work as a medium for rebuilding community and an ethos of coexistence in a conflict-ridden borderland has become the basis of the innovative Borderlands program. It is based on cultural practices in which knowledge is gained and depended in art workshops through one's own creativity, travel, and conversations with people. Thus, studios for young people have been created in the former yeshiva, and the White Synagogue has come alive with artistic meetings and activities. It is worth mentioning that according to the last pre-war census of 1931, Seine was inhabited by 819 Jews. They were mainly engaged in agricultural and forestry trade and crafts. Nowadays, at All Souls time, the former Seine Talmudic school tells of the Jewish Seine, of which only memory remains. Sacred books, amulets, and holy symbols, talit and tzimes, are talked about. And all this at the Shabbat table, where there is both matzah and kalach. The girls lit the candles. There are the song about angels, Shalom Aleichem. One visible area of artistic activity is the artists' growing interest in nature and their commitment to environmental conservation and sustainable development. Some artists have taken on the mantle of ecological activists, redirecting their efforts towards inspiring individuals to cherish their daily lives and surroundings. A notable example is the field of art projects. Artists Anna Siekierska and Iza Kaszyńska showcase practices that bridge the realms of sculpture, gardening, and education. One of their notable works, Shelter, involves weaving fallen branches in the forest, crafting a natural sanctuary for woodland creatures. Additionally, they have created a permaculture garden that serves as a living sculpture. The term permaculture derives from permanent and agriculture, underscoring the significance of sustained, harmonious interactions. The artists emphasize the importance of connection, dialogue, and collaborative creation within these endeavors. This project necessitates patience, as the fruits of their planting efforts will manifest over several seasons. In conclusion, the realm of Polish public art shows a growing interest in rural areas and border regions. This interest is driven on one hand by internal factors such as identity and socio-historical considerations, which encompasses ethnographic and borderland perspectives. On the other hand, the external global factors are also relevant, including the ecological shift, reconnection with nature, and actions against global corporations. Thank you for your attention.
Well, it's now my honor to introduce our next presenter, Annette B. Fromm, PhD, who was the former interim director and curator of the Cleveland Ethnographic Museum And Annette resides in Miami, where she's a folklorist and a museum specialist. We are so honored to have her, and I will turn it over to Annette.
Thank you, Gloria, and I'm glad to be part of this project. I'm going to be bringing you to Cleveland, Ohio. There it is. Cleveland is a large industrial city spreading along the shores of Lake Erie. Since its founding, it has been the home of numerous immigrant ethnic communities. Their members came to Cleveland, filling the need for workers in many industries. During the so-called Great Wave of Migration, 1880s to 1925, countless numbers of immigrants came to the area from the British Isles, Eastern Europe, Scandinavia, the Eastern Mediterranean, and the American South. Communities were established, usually in proximity to their places of work, with churches, shops, cultural organizations, and places of recreation that sprung up nearby. In addition, self-help and sick benefit societies were organized, and settlement houses like the movement that Emily Balch so strongly supported. Let's look at a few of the communities, starting with Hungarian traditions. In 1920, Cleveland's Hungarian immigrant population made up 18% of the city's foreign-born population. The Buckeye neighborhood had 7 churches and 8 clubhouses. There were community events such as grape harvest festivals, New Year's dances, picnics, plays, banquets, weddings. Then there were lectures, forums, political meetings, bazaars, all held weekly at the clubhouses and the halls. Father Richard Orley is a 3rd-generation Hungarian American. He expressed both his ethnic identity and his artistic skills in many ways. These hand-painted wooden pieces, a stool on the left and a mirror on the right, draw upon his Hungarian handwork and incorporate the Hungarian coat of arms. His reverse glass painted plates were inspired by the colorful patterns of macho embroidery on the bottom. And you can also see it on his vestments as he's blessing the Easter baskets. Many of the folk customs in Hungary were transplanted to the Hungarian communities and have endured. Festivities such as the wheat and grape harvests have been celebrated. Before Lent, the Temetes, or the burial of the bass fiddle, took place, ushering when there was no music or dancing until Easter and no income for the gypsies. Men, women, and children dress up as gypsies and reenact the story of the gypsy caravan burying their bass fiddle amidst much heartrending sorrow and sobbing and laughter. Another custom celebrated from Hungary that came to Cleveland is the water sprinkling. On Easter Monday, the young men of the village would visit all the eligible young maidens and sprinkle them water so that, like the fresh flowers of the spring, they would blossom and grow. The Hungarian American Friends of Scouting remains active, as does the Hungarian Scout Folk Ensemble. These young people have to speak, read, and write Hungarian as they maintain traditions such as hand-painted eggs for Easter, wood carving, painting, and dance performance. Another community, oh, here they are dancing. Cleveland, Ohio has a large Ukrainian community with a history that dates back to the 1880s. Like the Hungarians, numerous aspects of traditional culture have been continued in this community. Also on Easter Monday, the young people dress in folk costume and perform in front of the church. But the strength of the local Ukrainian community is the pisanki, a significant element of the Easter holiday tradition. Mrs. Jenny Bokar, who's a member of the Cleveland Ukrainian community and actually a president of the Ethnographic Museum, is a master of the art of these elaborately decorated eggs. She's knowledgeable about the different elements of design and the religious and cultural symbols that are incorporated into the overall design. According to Jenny Bokar, The art of pisanki is not simply a cultural tradition of beautiful artwork. It's an expression of her religious values. Here she is in the 70s on the right, and just a few years ago, keeping up her craft on the right in the 70s, on the left recently. She tells about the belief of hiding eggs in the house with a thatched roof will prevent a fire. She discusses the practice of not eating eggs during Lent because they contain life. Now, Cleveland is also the home to the largest population of Slovenians outside of Slovenia. They began to settle in the city also in the 1880s, attracted because of industry and the need for unskilled and semi-skilled laborers. Heritage and traditional culture were strong forces in this community. In 1897, the Slovenski Sokol, or the Slovenian Sokol, was formed. In addition to gymnastics, it promoted literary and musical activity among its members. Its immediate precursor was a singing club. So in Cleveland, among the Cleveland Slovenes, there were more than 40 Slovenian singing groups alone. Easter time, like among the Hungarians and the Ukrainians, is an important festival. On the weekend before Palm Sunday, the ladies in the community meet in St. Vitus Catholic Church and build their own butara, or bundles of greenery, to mark Palm Sunday. Because there are no palms available at this season in the early spring in Slovenia, sea willows and other greens, as well as ribbons and fruits, are built into the butara. There's two styles. You see on the right, this one with a long handle is the Dolenska butara, and it's filled with symbolic materials hidden in the stem, which you see on the left. Would you believe there's a potato, matches, a crown of thorns in the greenery? After the stem is found, 12 sticks representing the 12 apostles were added. And here we see young people and the clergy coming into church to celebrate Palm Sunday. I focus on Easter celebrations here, but Cleveland also is the home of a large Jewish community with Jewish immigrants that came from all parts of Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Mediterranean before World War II, and also many Holocaust survivors. Mrs. Anna Resnick and her family came in the early 20s. They actually emigrated from Ukraine, where her husband was a rabbi. They first went to early Palestine, but then came to Cleveland, where she raised her family, children, and grandchildren. Mrs. Resnick here, as part of the Cleveland Russians exhibit in 1980, is shown cooking matzo ball soup, a traditional soup. These are just a few examples of the wealth of traditional culture in Cleveland, Ohio. Only 4 communities that trace their ancestry to Europe. Immigrants carry much baggage with them, depending on their reasons for leaving their homes of origin. Traditional culture in many forms is one of those pieces that they bring with them. Perhaps it's the most important because it affirms their identity. You know, I've only scratched the surface in one locale in the United States. But wherever in the world you go, you'll find some aspects of persistent culture. Thank you.